What's good? What's good? What's good? You're now tuning in to the Unconventionally Miles podcast. Soul Food Sunday, a rendition that we do every Sunday to give you game, tips, tricks, things you could utilize in your day-to-day life. Mental health awareness. The goal is always to be better, to educate, motivate, and inspire. So that's what we do on my podcast. This week I want to talk about a topic that I asked a few of my friends literally today about, understanding what's your why and what keeps you going each day and what you're doing it for and who you're doing it for and what keeps you motivated on your day-to-day grind of living life. So I spoke to literally two people in mind. One of my homegirls, I'm not going to say her name. She wanted to stay off the podcast. But literally before I started the podcast today, I asked her, what's her why? What keeps her going? And she made a great, she basically articulated herself very well, and it was cool. It was inspirational to me because it's like knowing what your why is allows you to align with the overall goal that you're trying to achieve is, right? So she said her why is knowing what God wants for her and knowing God made her beautiful, right? And trying to align with what she wants with what and why God provided her with this gift of what she's doing. And for many of us, right, we may go through a lifetime actually chasing something that really doesn't mean as much as we think. And we're not supposed to be actually going down that route. I said, how did you know what your path was? She said, no matter what she tried to do, everything always led her back to what God had for her. So I don't want to get too spiritual or anything like that, but that was a good question I asked her, and it didn't take her a long time to answer that question at all. Knowing your why. For me, it took me quite some time to understand what my why was because I was trying to do what so many other people was doing that I thought was cool and I thought that was for me. And I would never succeed in it for some reason. I was good at it, but I was never good at it to the point where I was able to make it my career or a way of living or making other people happy or doing things that made me feel good no matter what was going on in my life. For some people, their why is their children. For some people, their why is providing. For others, their why is just doing what makes them happy. But understanding what your why is and making sure it aligns with what God has for you, that's a tool in itself. That's a gift in itself, right? So me and her always go back and forth. And it's funny because we go back and forth and get on each other's nerve. But when the main thing becomes the main thing, being there for one another, we're always there for one another. I give her a hard time. Like literally today, I got on her nerve just to see how far she would go. And it was funny. Because when it came down to talking about something serious, we got to what we needed to get to, right? So I appreciate you. You know who you are. I give you a hard time. It's all love, but I appreciate you being able to explain to me what's your why, right? She's very good at doing hair, making people feel good and creating value in people's appearance when their confidence is not where it needs to be. But at the same time, I always make sure to temperature check her to ask her, hey, the thing that you're doing, is that your passion? Is that your goal? Is that your gift? Is that what God provided for you? Is the why money, or is the why the satisfaction of turning other people around and making people feel good about themselves? And that's the why. That's one of the whys. Another thing, I was talking to my homeboy, and I told him, man, right? Just like I was talking to my friend, you have to love yourself, like she mentioned. You have to love yourself and love yourself unconditionally, where you're not going to let anyone interfere with what you're doing and why you're doing it. Right? I'm unapologetic with how much I care about my well-being before others. And what that means is I'm always going to make sure mentally, physically, and emotionally I'm present and I'm ready, instead of giving somebody all my time and all my energy and allowing them to drain me in an area where I can't be 100% myself. Right? So those are things that you learn and you understand down the line. But what is your why? Ask yourself, what is your why? What makes you go round? Right? And when I ask you what is your why, try to think about your why specifically for you. Let's try to not talk about kids or husband or wife. What is your why that makes you get up every morning, that you feel great about, that you do for you? Not anyone else at this specific moment, just what you do for you. When you're not feeling good, what is that thing you can do that make you happy? When times are bad or times are down, or if you're doing something where you're not getting monetary or financial gain, you can still do it regardless of the outcome. What is that why for you? That why is important. What is your why? This is valuable. This is very monumental. This is important. This is sacred. What is your why? Why do you do it? I was talking to my homeboy, Frank White. I say his name, Frank White. I was talking to him. I was just like, hey, man, what is your goal? What is your outcome? Right? It's like, what is your goal? What is your outcome? And usually as a man, you want to be a provider and a protector. But what about protecting your own peace? What about protecting what makes you happy? What about protecting your own energy? You can protect and provide for others, but what about yourself? Who's doing that for you? That's it. And that goes for women as well. You got to be a wife, a nurturer, a girlfriend, things of that nature. Sometimes a woman is the protector and the provider, right? In a relationship. That's just what it is. But before you can provide things to other individuals, you have to protect your own peace and understand why you're doing it for you first. It's not always about doing things for other people. You know, we all know what's going on in the world today. We all know times is hard. This isn't changing anytime soon, but the goal is to make sure you have moments that you carve out time for yourself to make sure you're being fulfilled and you're being satisfied. And that satisfaction and fulfillment is not someone providing it to you. You're able to provide it to yourself. On the Unconventionally Miles podcast, I don't ever want to come across like I'm an expert. I want individuals to understand that I'm down to earth and I go through a lot of the same things everyone else go through. But the one thing I got a lot better at is my emotional intelligence and my awareness, and just me understanding myself, me knowing myself. Before, I used to be a person to go out of my way to provide someone with joy, happiness, whatever they needed. Now I understand I can't overextend myself. I can't provide somebody with something that I'm not providing myself with, because I'm a burnout, right? This is when you have mental breakdowns, right? I remember being at a company. I used to work so much that I used to get sick, like literally. I'd be sleep deprived. I'm like, come on, I exert my energy too much. So you work very, very hard for another company, but I wasn't able to sharpen my skills for what I wanted to do, my own business, my own why. I wasn't able to do it because I put so much in that other company. And sometimes we put so much real estate in things for other people, we forget about ourselves, right? And a lot of times, a taker never has a no button. Someone who takes is always going to say yes to receiving. And a giver has to understand that takers are here to take, and don't become a giver to where you do not understand when somebody's just using you for what you got. Understand the difference. Yes, you can give, but you don't have to give all the time. You don't have to give your last. And when you can't provide or give to someone and they show out or they treat you different, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Givers give, takers take. But as a giver, you got to understand when a taker is taking your kindness for weakness and they're utilizing what you provide them to their benefit, and it's hurting you more than it's going to hurt them at all. Right? So this Soulful Sunday is more or less, what's your why? Understand your why. Does your why align with the goals that you have? The inspirations you want to provide to other people? The education you want to give other people, the motivation that you want to project and have for yourself and those who look up to you? What is your why? Does your why align with the why that God has for you? Right? And it may be some people who are not believers. I understand. Right? And for those individuals, what is your why? What makes you tick? Personally, not kids, not wife, not husband. What is it that makes you get up in the morning extremely happy? For me, I'm good just waking up, just having a breath of fresh air and being able to try whatever I want again. Just getting another opportunity to wake up. There's individuals that don't wake up every morning. It's individuals that don't have the same opportunity that I have. So I want to cherish every moment and utilize the gifts that I have and utilize the opportunities that I have to go try and be great, and whatever that looks like for me. You know, another thing, make sure y'all go check my my YouTube, my video podcast, motivation and consistency. It's we're getting a lot of movement and headway over there, and now you get to visually see my podcast. You get to visually see who I am. You get to visually see some of the guests and topics we talk about. I'm touching on whether it's quotes, whether it's shorts, whether it's reels, whether it's videos regarding motivation. I'm always trying to stay consistent when I'm not motivated, right? And the more and more I get to provide positivity and inspiration to other people, that's my why, to educate, motivate, and inspire. I understand that's my why because every time I try not to do those things, I'm always pushed in a direction to be a leader, to provide and give individuals one of those three characteristics. You know, another thing, I asked one of my co-hosts on Two Brains, One Goal, if you can change anything from your past based upon what you know presently, what would that be? And he made a statement that I was shocked, but once he said it, I was like, oh, he didn't know about credit cards until about 35 years old. And I was like, how is that possible? But depending on your age gap, as important as credit is today, it wasn't prevalent and important to individuals when he was growing up. So therefore, if he could go back, he would basically use credit over cash. And now, and not only because of me, but on his readings and dealing to individuals he come across, he understands the importance of financial literacy and how credit can move the goalposts on things that you want, whether it's a car, whether it's a house, whether it's tuition, whether it's a loan to get a big purchase. That's very important. And utilizing credit in place of your money, as long as whatever credit you take out you can pay back, is vital. You leverage your credit to get ahead, but you don't want to leverage credit if you know you can't pay it back. So credit is great as long as you can be disciplined and accountable to pay it back. Right? Like that's extremely important. And I was like, it makes perfect sense. So anytime I have an opportunity to inspire him, to motivate him, to educate him, because I am a loan officer. I've been in financial literacy for quite some time in many different financial institutions, as well as the things that I do on the side as a consultant. I always provide him with that information. Now, I want you to think about it as well. If you can go back into time, anything that you would like to change based upon what you know now, and if you could, you wish you would have utilized what you know now then, what would that be? Comment, talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's start a dialogue on that. For me, my biggest thing is, if I could go back, I don't regret any of it. It's just if you had the opportunity. If I could go back and change anything for me, or if I can use any information I know now and go back into time, it would be more patient. A lot of the things you want because you see everybody else with it, you don't need. Don't rush anything that you see everybody else with. It's a lot of purchases I made that once I got it, I didn't even need it. And it took the joy out of getting it because I was getting it for the wrong reasons. I was purchasing it or trying to acquire it for the wrong reasons. It was to fit in with other people. I was always hanging around people 15 to 20 years ahead of me. Right? So if I'm 15, I'm hanging out with individuals 35, 45 years old. So I'm trying to live like a man way before my time. I wasn't really able to enjoy my childhood. Right? Do I regret it? No. But I understand the pros and the cons of doing it. Right? And another thing is, I had to realize, being that I was able to acquire things so much earlier than many other people, buying a house, I got a house early on in life. Right? So now when I was seeing my friends get a house when I wasn't a loan officer, I was like, why are you so happy? I was raining on their parade because I had it so much earlier than them, and it was so much easier to get it because of the individuals I was around, and I understood the process of getting it. I could have been raining on some of my other friends' parade. So I apologize if I did that to you. I'm fully aware of that, and I just keep it to myself, and I basically just try to guide them in making the best options and making the best decisions on purchasing whatever that is. So if it's anything that you could change based upon all the knowledge that you have now, and you could go back to your younger self, what would that be? Vital information. And there's wisdom into just paying attention to people's achievements and things that they didn't achieve. Like, it's a gift and able to be present and aware of what people are doing and just being able to pay attention. So the wisdom is the biggest thing I want, right? So to go back to it and recap, I want you to ask yourself, what's your why? What makes you do what you're currently doing? Or if you're not currently working in an area or focus on an area that you would like to be, that you know is your passion because it aligns with everything you believe, why is that? How can you change that? How can you change your current situation, right? Another thing, I was talking to my guy, Frank White, and I was like, listen, man, if you got a degree and you have all these other tools in your toolbox, don't put all your eggs in one basket and just focus on what's making you the most money. Don't be the person that feel like working all day is a part of life. No matter how much you work, if you're not able to enjoy your family, your friends, the money that you make, you're living for the wrong reasons. And a lot of times the men that I know, it's all about making a lot of money and you're judged about how much you make and how you can provide. You're missing the main reason to live. You're missing the main focus of what life is. You got to enjoy life. Money can make life fun, but no matter how much money you make, if you're not able to enjoy the fruits of your labor and basically have others enjoy that as well that you want to bring in your world, it makes no sense. And women, like, I'm going to be honest. I know I'm a man. Like, listen, it's a lot going on with a lot of these men. Not all men are great. Not all men are good. So you can't try not to, if I could give you any advice, try not to fall in love with a person's potential. Some people are already stuck in their ways and they're not going to change. And they may show signs of potential, but the chances of them utilizing that potential or moving into that area of being more mature, it may not happen. And that goes for women and men. I fall in love with the process, but potential and actually doing and wanting to do is two different things. Because some of us, our why is our family, right? Your significant other. But some of those situations, I'm not telling you to give up, but I'm just telling you to understand potential compared to realistically what that person could be is important as well. Understand your why. Understand why you're here. Don't run from your why if it's not something that you want to do, because no matter how much you run from what God has for you, it's always going to circle around to what you need to do. And sometimes the things that we want the most will be taken from us because we're not paying attention what we need compared to what we want. So once again, Soulful Sunday, a rendition I do every Sunday. Make sure you check my YouTube, Motivation and Consistency. Got a lot of great things on there. Make sure you check my TikTok, Mr. Frequent Flyer Miles or Unconventionally Miles. Also check my Instagram. I'm going to consistently be getting a lot of things out to you guys. I'm going to have the 5-minute freshen up. So I'm going to try to get some episodes, some quick episodes during the week, just motivation during the week. Also, I would love to have some guests on this mental health podcast, the Motivation and Consistency visual podcast as well. Yeah, Soulful Sundays, another episode. Just want to chime in. Let me know what your why is. I want you to pay attention to what your why is. And also, if you do not know what your why is currently, try to tap into that to see what it is. And once you know what it is, you hone in on that and make sure you reach that goal. Enjoy a great Sunday. If you're watching the playoffs, let me know who your team is. I'm glad the Lakers didn't get swept. I seen the Clippers in Dallas play. That was a great game. Now we got to look at the Suns and see what turns around with the Suns. Do the Suns get swept tonight? Or can they pull one off in playing against Minnesota? Unconventionally Miles, thank you for checking in. I want you to share, subscribe. I want you to share to a friend. Make sure you follow my YouTube. I'm up out of here. 1.